Hello there, and welcome to Gooner U, where there are no degrees because the learning never stops. I'm Dove, a TA here at Gooner U, and my friend Keith is our stalwart distinguished professor of Arsenal and football studies. Enter our classroom as we discuss the week's news involving Arsenal, Premier League, Champions League, and international football, all from the perspective of a couple of Americans. This week, Arsenal hosted Nottingham Forest in our last match before we return to Europe. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Dove. How was the rest of your international break?
Good. Took in another youth soccer match this afternoon. My son's second of a season. Other than that, zero soccer. So, aside from editing our shorts, but yeah.
Well, you know.
But we should get right into it this week. So there's apparently been quite a bit of news. What happened with the rest of the World Cup qualification?
Yeah, a couple more games. We sort of talked about that last week, that they were coming. In terms of our selected sides, Egypt drew away to Burkina Faso, while South Africa drew against Nigeria. Neither of those teams has officially qualified, but both of them seem to be in pretty good shape. So it looks like we're going to have a couple of African teams to follow next summer. From CONCACAF, this is an interesting one. Costa Rica drew at home against Haiti, which is an interesting result.
Yeah.
There's plenty of games left, and I feel like Costa Rica will probably be fine, but it's not. But they drew also earlier in the window, so it's inauspicious for them in terms of World Cup qualification. Also included a goal by probably my favorite CONCACAF player, Haiti striker Duckins Nazon. So Costa Rica
I'm guessing if we go back to next goal wins, like it seems like small island nations generally don't field very competitive teams.
No, they don't. That's entirely fair. Haiti has had some talented players over the years. A lot of their limitations are structural, as in the structures within Haiti. Cuba, of course, has a lot of good players. They just tend to leave Cuba. Just kind of leave that one out there. And actually, we should mention island nations. The other one, your team, Jamaica, got a win against Trinidad, and generally seems to be in good shape, unbeaten so far in qualifying, and seems to be in good shape at least early on in the stage of CONCACAF qualifying. So,
cool.
Good on the Reggae Boys. That's boys with a Z, by the way. You gotta make sure you spell that right. Switching quickly to CONMEBOL. Colombia finished off qualifying with a win against Venezuela, though they had already qualified. Argentina lost their final qualifier away to Ecuador, and this is a bit wild. Ecuador actually finished in second in qualification in South America, and in fact did so with a 3-point penalty for having fielded an ineligible player in the previous cycle.
Oh, so leading up to the 2024 or 22 World Cup, right?
Right. So actually, they were. I mean, and Ecuador is one of those that's they're not one of the great powers of South America, but they're also not typically a bad side. But they are. They finished second in South American qualifying, which is a pretty good performance overall. And then we know they have some talented players. Of course, we'll soon be seeing more of Piero Hincapié for Arsenal. Also, they're the U.S.'s next opponent for a friendly in the October window. So it'll be interesting. That'll be a good test for the U.S. As a result of the results, Bolivia finishes in 7th. So they will enter the intercontinental playoffs, which I believe are set to be probably sometime, I guess in March will be when that is. So Bolivia, long-standing team of the show, will be is still alive in that regard. So South America finished up, and then just a couple more results from UEFA. Italy got a win at Israel. Of course, the game was in Hungary and not in Israel. Apparently, it was 5-4. Apparently, it was a bonkers game.
Yeah.
Especially for Italy, who has not looked great so far in qualifying. Denmark got a win at Greece, which doesn't officially clinch their spot, was probably the second best team in the group in the away game, and so I think Denmark is in really good shape to qualify. Norway, meanwhile, looks really good so far in qualifying. Hammered Moldova in their qualifier. I believe the final score there was 9-1 or 9-0. Definitely a good performance in Group I. Let me get it there. No, sorry, 11-1. 11-1. Erling Haaland scored 5 goals in the game. Martin Odegaard had 1, and then Asgard, Tilo Asgard, had 4, all after the 67th minute.
Wow.
Moldova's goal was even an own goal off Odegaard. So it's you're going to see those results sometimes. So Norway, 15 points from 15 possible, plus 21 on goal difference. You know, they're 6 up on Italy right now with still with a few games left to play in qualifying, but they're in really good shape to make it. So we've talked about how they kind of underachieved as a national team. Not this time around. They seem to be achieving quite nicely.
Yeah, that's good. Good for them. So we had talked about World Cup tickets last time around. Have there been more details unveiled there?
Just that we are in the middle of, at least it opened on Wednesday, and I believe we're still in the middle of the Visa World Cup ticket raffle.
Right.
Again, that is Visa, the credit card company, official sponsor of FIFA and the World Cup, not your ticket into the United States. So for Visa card holders, you basically entered yourself into a raffle, which was interesting in that's basically all it is. I just fill out the form. It's interesting. They ask things like, you know, where would you be interested in watching games and which rounds are you interested in? But they also said, by the way, your answers will have no influence whatsoever on what you end up getting as far as tickets. And I'm like, well, then what's the point of? I don't know. This is an extraordinarily convoluted process, unnecessarily so. Apparently, the website crashed the morning it opened, which isn't terribly surprising given how many people I'm sure immediately rushed in to get themselves into the raffle. But I'm in, so we'll see. I guess I'll find out by the. I think they said the 29th is the day they're supposed to make an announcement, so we'll figure it out.
Right now, what you're winning in the raffle is not tickets. It's the opportunity to buy tickets, right? They don't get payment information up front, right?
Right. It's the opportunity to purchase the ticket. Yeah, so I'm not paying for anything, although I have my Visa card, so.
Right.
But yeah, it is the opportunity to purchase the tickets. And as I understand it, you'll get, the way they described it at least, is you'll basically have a day and a time window, and you'll log in at that time, and you'll get to pick games and packages. Apparently, the packages are, you can do individual games, you can do packages where you follow certain teams, or you can do packages, I think, for specific cities. I was talking to some of the Arsenal guys this weekend, and some of them were talking about, wanting to get a game in Monterrey or Mexico City, maybe Vancouver, try to go to Seattle, maybe do some of the West Coast games, different places people are going. Obviously there apparently ticket purchasing opportunities available through the final. Presumably they are not selling all the tickets at once. They'll there's whatever's available when you log in. So they basically said, make sure you know what you're looking for because you don't want to spend a lot of time in there. And so I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm in and waiting. So
yeah. Well, good luck. I may toss my hat in the ring. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, if you have a Visa card, the worst thing that'll happen is you don't get it. You don't get in the raffle, and then you just buy at a later raffle. There's at least one more raffle, and then apparently there'll be another period where tickets are available. And then I imagine probably I bet you're going to get a lot of potential resale coming after the draw in December because you're going to have a lot of people who are suddenly deciding they would like to go to different games because that's the team they want to see or I don't want to be there for that game, so.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. That kind of advantages someone like me who maybe if I do go, if it's not Team USA, I really probably don't care who it is. So yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's good to know. Moving along, we also wanted to talk about the end result of USA's friendlies, right?
Yeah, they were talking about how they weren't very good against South Korea. They were actually pretty solid against Japan, which is good because Japan's actually good, arguably better than South Korea.
Hmm.
Yeah, Japan had a rotated side, sure, but so did the U.S. A little bit. Good players. I came out with a 2-0 win that they largely deserved and was largely reflective of their performance in the game, which is nice. It's probably the first significant win they've had under Pochettino since he took over a year ago, which is nice to see. By his own account, apparently next window is when they're actually going to get serious about prepping for the World Cup. Let me explain that because that sounds really bad. It's literally the only job he has. No, it's the ideas for this window and for the summer and previously was about bringing in different players and who maybe hadn't been part of the setup before or hadn't played in previous instances and seeing how they fit in. What were their skill sets? Did they work for things he wanted to do? And the idea being that for October, November, and then next March, and then June. Well, June you have no choice because then it's the roster. But for the next 3 windows, October, November, and March, calling in the best possible, the roster you want to have when the World Cup starts, so that those are the players who are working together and practicing and building building some of the cohesion, the teamwork that you're looking for going into that World Cup.
Yeah.
Supposedly, cool. That's the argument. And it's Ecuador to lead off with, the second best team in South America. So it'll be great. It'll be totally great, totally fine. Ecuador and Australia is the other team we have in the window. So
right, cool. So I think if I'm reading the notes correctly, there are some surprising moves happening in the Premier League.
A little bit. So it was more just a case of, we should have mentioned these last week because we did when as the window slams shut, as it does. Never gentle, always slamming. Some last minute moves. Manchester City picked up the keeper Gianluigi Donnarumma, and I believe I thought I saw, and I should double check this for a second. Did they let Ederson go?
Right,
but they brought in Donnarumma.
That would be surprised. So he was Real Madrid's keeper, right?
No, Paris Saint-Germain. He was PSG.
Oh, PSG. I knew he was right. He was one of them that we faced in Europe, right?
Yes, we'd seen him last year in Europe with PSG. Obviously, he won. He beat us twice. They've had a lot of questions about him. They haven't been huge fans of him, and apparently they had bought another keeper in the window, younger, better, and so Donnarumma said, "Okay, I want to go play." And he is obviously still a pretty good keeper. He just won the Champions League. But apparently City decided it was a move they wanted to make, and he's now likely to be their number 1. So that's interesting. I don't really know what else to... Yeah, it's interesting. I will see how that goes. I don't believe he played today against United, though.
Oh, okay. How'd that go for them?
They won 3-0 because United's not good. We'll talk about coaches in a moment, but
yeah,
I do wonder how much longer. I mean, I guess I'm not super surprised that United lost to City. City's better than them, but United hasn't looked particularly good at any point this season, and you start to wonder how much longer that can go. Someone was floating, one of the Arsenal guys was floating a stat, or I think it was Amorim has lost more games in the just under a year he's been their manager that Mikel Arteta has lost in 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they're a mess. Which is still very funny. Just gonna leave that there. Then the other big one, which teams that are definitely not a mess. Liverpool did actually accomplish the signing of Alexander Isak from Newcastle, which is very annoying because, of course, Liverpool signed the best player for a ton of money. He spent like £300 million on Isak and Florian Wirtz, who they got out of Germany, just between those players, and acquired a bunch more too. They were. I know everyone talks about how active Arsenal was in the window. Liverpool was incredibly active in the window, but the big difference being they sold much better than we did, and so their net spend number is much nicer looking than ours, which is not very good at all, frankly.
Right.
We'll see how that plays out for them long term. Isak was not on the team in their team at all for today's game, but as they pointed out post game, he didn't play preseason. He was essentially holding out because he didn't want to. He didn't want to play for Newcastle. He wanted to transfer, and so he didn't. So he hasn't practiced at all. So it might end up being a couple weeks before he actually gets into their team. I guess what I'd say is the silver lining of this from an Arsenal perspective is that the one thing Isak does really well is score goals, but that's the one thing Liverpool didn't really have problems with scoring goals. It's the defense, which is on the leakier side, relatively speaking, or where they've seemed a little shakier. And so he doesn't really address that problem for them. He kind of solves a problem. Wasn't really a problem, but he's also really good, Premier League experienced, and it's kind of annoying that Liverpool got him like that.
Yeah, definitely. But it's okay. We have one match out of the way without him on their side for this season, at least, anyway. So
yeah, I mean, really, the nightmare scenario was that they made the transfer happen in the week leading up to that game, and
right.
and they had him for which all things considered, he missed the preseason, et cetera, was not going to happen. But and then again, they won anyway, so whatever. Yeah, it's annoying, but they're saying that, teams like City and Liverpool are saying that some of the players we picked up too. We know Liverpool very nearly had Zubimendi a year ago, so certainly we have players that they desire as well. So
yeah, it certainly would have changed today's outcome had that come to pass.
Yeah,
yesterday's. I watched it today, but yesterday's outcome against Forest. Yeah, by the time everyone listens to this, will be a couple days ago. Yeah.
And at this point, I think dovetails into our last bit of all the interesting stuff this break happened other than Arsenal. Arsenal had a perfectly quiet international break where Arsenal guys got some good playing time. They played really well, had good results, and nobody got hurt, and everything was wonderful, which is pretty much ideally an ideal international break for a club. That's exactly how you want everything to go, and it worked out. And that is not true at Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, so I started watching the game and noticed a new face on the sidelines.
Well, actually, we noticed a rather familiar one, but not the one you were probably
not what I was expecting, right?
Right. So obviously going into the season, Nuno Espirito Santo was the head coach at Forest. He was in a lot of ways the architect of their success last season. They are playing in Europe this year. They are a pretty solid team. But he has been at odds with Marinakis, the owner, and then also the man brought in by Marinakis to sort of be the director of football, but not for Forest, but for the entirety of his holdings, which includes Olympiacos and then a Portuguese team as well, whose name Rio Ave, I think it is. Anyway, that man, speaking of familiar faces, is our very own Edu Gaspar, the former Arsenal director of football.
Yeah, they showed him briefly at the beginning of the Forest match, yeah.
Yeah, so all I know, and this is per the stories printed in The Athletic about the whole thing, is that apparently Nuno and Edu did not get along at all. So yeah, that went horrible for there, and there was a sense, I think, coming in that Nuno was, even with all of his success, was not necessarily long for the Forest job. He didn't really like the transfer business they did in the summer. They did win their opener, but the post-game story was really about him and Marinakis getting into they're basically shouting at each other on the field after the game, which is weird. Even if they had lost, which they didn't, which makes it even weirder. And even going into the break, I feel like, I wonder if did I make some comment about, we'll see if Nuno's even managing. So basically during the break, they pulled the plug on him. That sounds like that was really a matter of when, not if. And then they brought in former Spurs manager Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah.
Which is a fascinating transition in several ways. Nuno is a defensive coach. I mean, he built Nottingham Forest the way he had dealt with Wolves, which was, a strong defensive team that beat you on the counter. And doesn't play that way at all. He was very dogmatic at Liverpool with a high line and playing forward. And I'm not surprised Forest. Well, I mean, Forest wasn't going to make a lot of changes. He'd probably had 2 sessions with them before the game. But yeah, so a lot of drama at Forest. I mean, well, here's Arsenal just chugging along and just getting ready for the game.
Now, I guess he was brought in late enough that he didn't have any influence on their away kit, kind of looking like a mock Spurs kit.
There were several rounds of the song "Are You Tottenham in Disguise" at late in the game, which, to be fair, is what Arsenal says to any fans sing to pretty much any team we're beating. But yes, and their big Ange on the sidelines, the team wearing white kits. It was rather Spursy of them.
Yeah. So it's probably that time to begin talking about the match proper. This was yesterday as we record, September 13th. We beat Nottingham Forest 3-0 to the Arsenal. So that was a good result. The first thing I noticed was certain players not on the pitch and a couple who were. So we didn't have Saliba or Declan Rice starting, although Rice was on the bench. He came in later in the game. Mikel Merino was in and Eze started, so that was all good.
Yeah, I mean, Saliba's not really a surprise. There are reports that he's actually been perhaps even in training, and there were some rumors that maybe he'd be available for Saturday. I think that was always a bit optimistic, but it does suggest that his injury, like we thought about, was not terribly serious, and that as a result, he will be back with us in relatively short order. Fingers crossed. Although we say that, and Christian Mosquera was pretty good in his service yesterday. I mean, the whole team was pretty good yesterday. Yeah. So
there's that one particular tackle he made. It was pretty late in the game, as I recall, where I was kind of glad that a penalty didn't get called. It seemed like it maybe bordered on foul in the box territory. No, you didn't think so?
I didn't see it. No, I didn't see anything there. I mean, but I think about how many times Saliba's had those where he needs to make the perfect tackle, and he just does. And but I thought Mosquera was really quite good yesterday. The Merino Rice one was, I think, the more interesting one. I suspect, and we'll talk about this at the end, we have Champions League coming up. We're about to hit that stretch of 2 games a week now, with Champions League on Tuesday and City played next Sunday. So I think Rice sitting was part of that you're going to need him for these games. And so this is the idea of rotation. And rotation means that certain players don't play, and that's okay. And he was available to come in. As for Mikel Merino playing, Merino scored 4 times for Spain this week in the international break. We actually turned him into a striker.
Wow.
I don't know. He didn't play striker, but he has been more comfortable going forward. We've used him in the center forward position. He's hit a bit of a run of form in terms of scoring goals. He's definitely, and we'll talk, as you look at the game, is an annoying player to play against. I can see why he would drive other teams crazy. But yeah, he's in. Eze got the start. I mean, we've talked about the left side there. Trossard, Martinelli, neither of them is particularly, we haven't really been overawed by either of them at this point in the season. So with that, Eze makes a lot of sense given what they went after to get him. So yeah, it is an interesting lineup, but I would say I certainly didn't see any problem with it early on. I thought we were playing decently well early on, sort of essentially pinning Forest back.
Yeah, I think, midway through, they'd said that they still didn't have any touches in the box, no shots, didn't get their first corner kick until like 5 minutes left of regular time in the first half. Like, it was, very, very lopsided, especially in the first half.
Yeah, I think by the end of the game, I think possession was like 55-45, somewhere in that range to Arsenal. But early on, it was a heavy Arsenal performance. We were essentially camped out in their end.
Yeah.
Which, you could easily see a little bit of worry there, right? How many times have we watched a game where we've seen Arsenal on the front foot, but sort of struggling to find those opportunities, and how that comes back to bite us, especially against a team like Forest, who lives for that kind of game. You could easily. It's harder to say in retrospect because everything seemed fine. We ended up doing fine, but it's tough, especially given you need your creative players, and our centerpiece creative player is Martin Odegaard, and within 20 minutes he was gone.
Yeah, so that started, it was in the 7th minute where we had a free kick, and Merino took a shot that just went straight at Sells' side, kind of blocked him mid-body. But then in the rebound and the aftermath of all that, there is a little bit of a coming together right around the 18-yard box line, and Odegaard was sent up in the air and then landed hard on his already injured shoulder, but he's just coming back from. That was not good to see. Yeah, so he lasted for another, it was like about 10 minutes before he actually came off the pitch.
Yeah, not ideal, man. I don't know what else to say about that. It sucks for Odegaard. But even with Odegaard being out, we saw Ethan Nwaneri come in, and I don't know. I thought he did fine. He had one or two kind of loose passes, one or two awkward moments in there, but we see that from Odegaard every game. And overall, I thought Nwaneri was fine. Handled the game well. Didn't seem out of place. You forget how young he still is.
Right.
19, I think. Is he even 19?
No, I think he's probably still 18.
Still 18. To have a talent like that to call in, which is really something we could say across the entire roster. But even then, we sort of kept going with it. And once again, how did we break through Set Piece FC?
Yeah. I mean, let's take a minute to acknowledge. So by the time the 32nd minute rolled around and we had our corner that actually resulted in a goal, we'd had, I think, already 2 or 3 corner kicks before that, all taken on the right side. Every single one of this entire match was taken from that right side, taken by Noni Madueke. So I think he, to my eyes, did great. His deliveries were spot on all match. Like, it wasn't a surprise that we were able to convert one of them. Do you think that he takes the place of Saka or Odegaard? Do you think Saka comes back and slots right back where he has been? I mean, he was doing pretty well. Definitely not Declan Rice anymore on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, well, I will say, so here's the thing on that, and there you see some of this comment there. Oh, is he better than Saka? Well, okay, hold on, guys. Let's dial that back a little bit. Forest was playing without a left back. The guy they had playing left back was apparently not even a left back at all. He's playing there because their regular guy was hurt.
Right.
Look, Madueke had a good game. Like, let's just accept that for what it is. Madueke had a good game. He does some things well. He's incredibly fast. He did have some really good deliveries on his corners, but we've also seen really good deliveries on the corners from Saka too. We've seen Saka. I mean, Saka and Madueke are different players. Madueke is very direct. He uses his speed, gets him. I mean, he tortured that guy all day. He was constantly moving in and around him. Saka doesn't play that way. Saka, Madueke we saw was willing to go almost toward the touchline, before cutting. He wanted to go wide and around. We see Saka sort of gets down and then tries to cut in across the top of the box. That's more his to get onto his left so he can shoot. So they are different players trying to do different things. But let's be clear about this. Saka is a better player than, I would say much better, but definitely a better player than Madueke. Yeah. Madueke, listen, good young player, England international. Saka's a better player. Saka is still, I think, probably our best player.
I wasn't suggesting that Madueke start in place of Saka on the right wing when Saka is healthy. It was more like maybe if Madueke is filling in on the left wing, like we've seen him do already and like we know he can do, and Saka is also on the pitch, which one of them takes the corner kicks from that right side?
I think it's, I see it more as you can feel comfortable with Madueke taking corners in games in which he's playing. I don't look at it as he's replacing some of our regular corner takers, assuming they're in the game, like Rice, like Saka. I look at it as more as you can feel comfortable with him making those deliveries in games where they aren't playing. When he has to, Rice is out, who's taking the corners? Well, we have Madueke, it's fine. That's kind of how I look at that, is better. And if you had told me going into this game that we would be, or, think about it where we were coming into this game or 15, 20 minutes into the game, we had no Saliba, no Saka, Rice is on the bench, Odegaard's now on the bench with the injury, Ben White didn't play in this game. I'm trying to think, we also know Kai Havertz wasn't playing in this game. Like, that's a lot.
Jesus.
Anyway, yeah, Jesus. We could throw in Jesus too. That's a lot of guys who have been really important to us over the last couple of seasons, and we look totally fine. Like that's the crazy thing. That was ultimately we'll spoil the ending. We won. That was ultimately a very comfortable win without any of those players. And against, I know they're in a bit of disarray at the coaching change and everything, but like, I mean, Forest is spent most of the last season in the top four. They're in the Europa League. They have talent. Like you look at their lineup and like there's a couple guys I wouldn't be upset if Arsenal was connected to. Like they have some talent on that team. Matt Sells was the one who shared the Golden Gloves with Raya last year. Like,
Right.
They have talent, and so to have a game against a team like that and just completely control the game with essentially your second lineup, a B team to use international parlance, is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, so along those lines, so I derailed us a little bit and was talking about Madueke taking the corners, but obviously the key thing here was he took the corner. It was headed clear beyond the 18-yard box, and while bouncing midair, knee height, Zubimendi just swivels around and knocks it like a bullet straight horizontally into the back of the goal. Not entirely straight. It bounced off of a ricochet a little bit on its way in, but what a shot, though.
I mean, in baseball, they talk about the sweet spot, right? That point on the bat where if you hit it, like, the ball, like exactly where it's designed to be hit. He hit that ball with the sweet spot of his foot. My God, what a corner what a shot that was.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Cow. Like I don't know if he'll ever do that again in his life. Oh my good. Like it was one, he hit it, and of course people are screaming, and half the people in the bar are just like,
yeah.
Like, what was that? Man, that was something else. From a guy who has like 10 career goals. He's a defensive midfielder. He doesn't score a lot of goals. Right. But yeah, I think they said it's the first goal he's ever scored from outside the box in his career. Yeah. Which again makes sense. Why would he be doing that? And then I remember like a few minutes later, he shot one like over the bar, and I remember thinking
it was close.
I remember thinking, and I remember thinking, he was in too close. He needed to be like 5 yards further back. And it was a bullet too. Like but it just went over the bar. Like, oh my goodness,
he was gearing up.
My goodness, that was. But how many times have we seen that? You get the goal, and the game opens up. And it's amazing what that we've talked about that right last season when we didn't get that first goal, you could see the team almost tightening up. And this one, but when they got the goal, everything was fine. We got the goal, and everything was fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I noted toward the end in stoppage time, Timber had a great play. At first, it looked to me like he kicked the ball and was giving them a corner, but I think he kind of forced one of the Forest players to kick it over the touch or over the byline, so it went for a goal kick. But Timber had a really good game.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like, given how much time we've spent with Timber over White over the past like season and a half, like for you, if you're in Arteta's shoes and you're picking the lineup, like if White and Timber are both healthy, who do you play? And let's say it's in this match where it's not like we don't have Odegaard or Saka, let's say you have the foreknowledge that we weren't going to have Odegaard. Like, who do you put in the right if you're discounting the relationship between Odegaard and Saka and White that we've seen firing on all cylinders in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest argument for Ben White right now is in those situations is having that kind of interplay, that kind of knowledge. Although, of course, we basically went all of last season without seeing it, so it is a kind of thing that we haven't actually seen. And
maybe really it's evaporated.
I'm. It's interesting. It does feel to a certain extent like Timber has sort of become the right back now. As I believe White's still recovering from or dealing with a bit of an injury, so I don't want to totally write that off as saying it's obviously Timber's position, but I will say this: I do think Ben White offers a little bit more offensively than Timber does, and so it could be context, the situation, how you expect your opponent to play. White's a little bit better of an offensive player in the sense that he's, especially with the interplay he's capable of with Odegaard and Saka, whereas Timber is much more dogged defensively, but Timber can go forward, right? White is a perfectly good defender. I mean, I feel like you really are kind of flipping a coin, like it really could be a little bit of, you really could do either. It's interesting. It feels like we've never really been able, or Arteta's never really been forced to make that decision, because Timber was out all of that first season,
right.
and White was out almost
Right.
all of last season, and he's kind of hurt now. And so it feels like I don't even know how he would go, because it feels like there's never been a moment we could point and say, oh, he really could have done both, and he went with this one. So,
yeah, there hasn't been a lot of overlap for the two of them, right?
Yeah, in terms of ways of sort of the team evolving and the lineup changing, I think that's actually a pretty good one there too. It could just be that we are now, that Timber, it does the things we want in that Arteta wants out of the right back, the way that White doesn't, and perhaps that's a change. Again, as you said, maybe it is a change that kind of in his mind has already been made. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first half ended 1-0. Our dinner arrived. I took a little bit of a break watching the replay and then went back and watched the second half with my son, whereas the first match I watched on my own. Second half starts, like we're just kind of getting into the game. I'm like talking to him, and all of a sudden there's another goal, and I'm like losing it. And he was like completely shocked at how loudly I was screaming, because like I just didn't expect a goal that quickly in the second half. What a shot that was,
I mean, think about the change on Arsenal. Look at the three players who were involved. It was Calafiori, drops in a ball to Eze. Eze, comes down, puts in the cross. He finds Gyökeres, and it's 2-0. And,
Yeah, exactly. Reed was excited to see the Bane celebration. I'd mentioned that to him before. Obviously, he and I share a lot of superhero fandom. He's seen all the Batman movies and stuff. So when I told him that was a Bane celebration, he was looking forward to seeing that. So he wasn't disappointed.
I do think it was fun. Gyökeres scores the goal, and his celebration is very subdued. I mean, he does essentially have a tap in, which it's nice to have that. But But just that, I'm just thinking that whole sequence is so different than how we played the last couple of years. And the criticism of Arteta, which I think is a little unfair, is about the idea of Arsenal being predictable. And some of that is, I think, a result of especially last year, some of the injuries. It's hard to try too many different things when every week the lineup is different.
They've been saying that before in prior season, though. I remember 2 or 2, yeah.
But then again, before, like, oh, they're so predictable. Arsenal always plays the same way. Yeah, but remember, it was that stretch where we lost one game in the league after the new year, and we're winning 6-0, 5-0. Like, why would you, like, why would you change that?
Right.
I'm sorry, it's so predictable that we're awesome. Like, I don't. Right. So, but all of those three players in particular are very different than the kind of players we've had. Calafiori is a complete wild card. He was playing right wing at one point, or rather, I should say, not that he was playing right wing, but all of a sudden you look up, and there he is. Like, what's going on? What are you doing there? Eze is another player who it was at Palace. He kind of moved around a little bit, and part of that was the role he was playing. But he's a bit more unpredictable in that regard. Gyökeres isn't a forward like Havertz sometimes, who will hold the ball up to let others move around him. Gyökeres is a guy who's trying to run in behind defenders and get those kind of clean shot opportunities. And we've sort of seen a little bit. I think his teammates are still kind of working out how they all fit together in that. But then I think that but it worked out here, and it was just a great play. It was quick. They were direct, and it was 2-0. And at that point, the game was basically over, right? The way Sports was playing.
Yeah. Although there was a little bit of hesitation in the celebration after the initial reaction, like, oh, wait a second. As soon as they started showing the replays, as they was kind of close to being in an offside position, They do, it looks like, because we saw about 8 minutes later or so, we saw the semi-automated offside graphic where they show like the mannequin players and they show the invisible wall emanating from, I think it was the defender's shoulder. It was his shoulder that was the furthest forward part of his body, and as they was clear of it, and the graphic showed it. But so SAOR is a fact of life this season in the Premier League. Like, it's in place, it's all good. I know we had a lot of false starts with it and false promises last season.
Yeah, and I would say it's interesting you point out, like, the graphic itself doesn't come on the broadcast until like 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Which is weird, I admit, but they were clearly checking it, and then clearly the referee signaled and said goal, so it was obviously fine. It was interesting that you didn't see the graphic until later, because our experience with this with the World Cup, and I know they said it was a different company they were using.
Yeah, different system, but
the technology is still basically the same. It's still producing, it's still giving you the same outputs, which is these, mannequin figures in a 3D setting with the wall being positioned there and judging their. So I don't know what that was a weird.
Yeah.
It must have been. I feel like it's almost had to be like the TV production. Like, that must have been their choice because of the way the game was playing out or what they had access to. I don't know. That was kind of weird, but also it seems to work exactly as there was no. They paused, they looked, they got the call, and goal.
It was not a protracted thing, right? And who knows? Maybe the delay was in the VAR, like being able to distribute the graphic to the broadcast teams in an efficient manner or something. Who knows? But that was a little weird. But hey, it did seem to work well. So the result went in our favor, so we're not going to complain regardless.
I mean, don't underestimate the degree to which the speed of the decision sort of helps people's acceptance of it. The longer it goes on, the more people see replays, and everybody's breaking down angles and all that stuff. And that's kind of what, and that kind of leads to sometimes the shock of the decision, which is part of how you get the mistrust that develops on occasion. And you are dealing with, sports fans who are obviously bringing a lot of priors to what they're seeing. But you have a system. It's very simple to see. It's very clear. They make the decision. They have it. The decision comes out quickly. Everybody sees it. Oh, okay. And we move on. We just move on.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice. Let's hope it stays smooth. I don't know. And I will say also one other interesting thing watching this match. So did you notice the on-field ref with his arc reactor in the middle of his chest? He had the referee cam. I think it was called the ref cam. And they were making use of a bunch of different angles in the broadcast, not only the ref cam, which the footage out of it was strangely not color matched to the rest. It looked very washed out and faded, and that was kind of weird. But I noticed they were also showing a bunch of low angles from around the goal for shots. I imagine those may be coming from the same cameras that they use for the SAOR, possibly, because we talked about the VAR system for the Premier League during last season, where what I'd read about it was basically a bunch of iPhones like ringing around the whole stadium, where they're not going to be like the same as the broadcast cameras. They're not going to have as long focal length and stuff, but for what they do have, like, it's a whole bunch of variety of angles you can pick to show things the right way on the broadcast. So I guess some of that is being given to them. That's pretty cool.
It could be that. There was some talk earlier, or like in sort of preseason, about changes that were coming to the broadcasts of Premier League games. Essentially, they talked about more cameras, having cameras at different places, doing halftime interviews with coaches and players. It was essentially Americanizing the broadcast. If you watch American football, you're getting a lot of the same thing. And so I wonder how much the ref cam is another one of those, which I don't know. It doesn't do, the ref cam here doesn't do anything for me, like sometimes they have, like, baseball has an umpire cam sometimes where the umpire, it's a home plate umpire, and it's, you kind of get a sense of what the umpire's perspective is in terms of pitch location and things like that. Okay, like that. There's a value to that,
and
too.
It's always like a good play, like it's a good view of the pitch, like it's right pointed at where you want to be looking. Whereas the referee, like with the wide angle that we're given from that camera, like he's usually not right on top of whatever is going on. It's not even clear what they're trying to show. A lot of the time, it's just like, oh, look at this other angle of whatever random stuff happened to be going on.
They used it a lot. 2 weeks ago now in the Liverpool game on the Zoboslai, the free kick, the one that won the goal that won the game. And they use the same kind of thing here on Zubimendi's goal, where he powers it in from distance. Like so, and those it kind of helps with that. It's that behind angle where you can sort of see the swerving of the ball, and
right? Sure.
But otherwise, I don't know. It didn't do a lot for me. I noticed definitely the color difference, but I assume that's like there's like definitional different quality and the quality of the camera itself. But I think also what I noticed too is because it's on his shirt, like it's kind of bouncing around with it, and so it's a little motion sickness, honestly, watching
shaky cam footage, Blair Witch Project.
I feel like on something like those free kicks where the referee has a very particular angle, he's standing in a view of what's happening, it can be valuable, and I suppose there's because of course even then you're not really getting what the referee sees, because what happens if he's facing this way but he's turned his head to watch something else? So I get it, and I don't mind, it's one of those things that they experiment with it, and the worst thing that happens is you get nothing out of it. Nobody got hurt with this. It's fine.
No.
But yeah.
Did you notice the one other random shot? They used it in the replays of the first Zubimendi goal. They jokingly referred to it on the broadcast, I think, as a view from satellite or from space. They said something like that, where it showed Zubimendi's goal from up and behind over the top of the Emirates, like looking down through the hole in the roof at his goal being scored. Like, okay, I guess we have that available to us too. I guess they had a drone hovering over there or something.
It's gotta be a drone. I've seen, even just like in the last week, I've watched the Yankees, and they've had a drone outside this. I mean, they've said it on the broadcast, this is our drone shot. And usually it does the same thing it always does. Like coming back from commercial, we'll just pan to the stadium and it looks nice. But they had a couple times where like you could see into the stadium and nothing. I mean, it was, the pitchers throwing warm-ups and everybody's throwing the ball around. So nothing's happening, but like you can kind of see it's a weird shot. I kind of like that one, actually. I do like that one, I have to say.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's a case of showing you more than you might see from other angles, because it is like so pulled back. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so not too much happened for a stretch in the second half after that goal. I mean, we had a yellow card to Calafiore. It was a pretty obvious one. Like he tripped the guy pretty blatantly. Like no argument there. We had Miles Lewis-Skelly come on for Calafiore not too long after that. Probably coincidence, but maybe not. And Rice on for Gyökeres.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They were at about the time. I mean, the yellow. I think that's one of those. You're thinking about making subs anyway. Why not get Lewis-Skelly in? Also, he has a yellow, maybe just to be sure, because of course our next league game is City, so you want to be.
You don't want him out. Yeah,
the last thing you want is a stupid red card late in the game, because I mean that cost us a bunch last season. The last thing you want
against City,
among others. But that's a position you can avoid. Calafiore comes off, and you have Miles Lewis-Skelly, who recall pretty good. And then we saw Declan Rice come on too, which part of me feels like that was a little more planned to make sure that he was able to run in and actually playing.
Although he came on for Gyökeres instead of coming on like for Marino or something. That was interesting.
Yeah, but at that point, what ends up happening is that Marino starts to play further forward. We talked about him as a striker, but he does sort of become your number 9 in that instance, and Rice essentially replaced. So in a sense, it's actually Rice is coming on for Marino, and Marino is coming on for Gyökeres, but of course, since Marino's already on the field, that's so tactically that's what's happening. Even though you don't think of it as like, why is a defensive midfielder in us coming on for a striker? But also, it is something of a defensive move too. Like, we're up 2-0. This game's not kind of over, because we've seen them blow 2-goal leads late. But it's the kind of call you make. All right, let's take the air out of the ball. Let's just get out of here without anything crazy happening. And and kind of incredible that you can be up 2-0 and just say, and here's Declan Rice.
Which, it was only a few minutes after he came on that he very nearly got in a third goal at that point, where it was a really nice cross. Timber sent his way and he slid down and just didn't quite get the ball as it crossed his path. So that was disappointing. That was almost really good.
Almost, yeah. A good moment. And a few minutes later, they ran a couple more subs. Martinelli on for Madueke and Trossard for Eze. I did enjoy that Madueke got sort of the long walk off, which allowed him to get the ovation, which, I mean, given, we talked about this a little bit in the summer, right? Given the amount of vitriol he faced for being signed by Arsenal, it was too much. And so to have that moment where he has a good game and gets the moment to come off, which of course is going to lead to, given his performance, I think led to a deserved applause. So for him to have that moment, I think was really nice. And then Trossard came on for Eze as well. I mean, there's a player who the fans have already decided they love, whatever he does, which is what
was the objection to Madueke? I don't remember that coming up before.
So basically, one is that we spent a lot of money on him for a guy who's essentially Saka's backup, although that has certainly proven some of its value.
Yeah, really.
Moment. A player who was considered kind of surplus to requirements at Chelsea. And also one who, and again, you're giving a bunch of that money to Chelsea, like giving Chelsea $50 million, who was essentially one of their backups. Like, what are you doing? I mean, that kind of goes into what people think about Havertz. Like, I still know people who don't love the Havertz signing. The sense was that what we get from him, he was not what he was signed for. What we get from him was still an overpay based on what he does. Money that it's not so much that it was. The problem with overpaying Havertz is that leaves you with less money to get other players that could potentially they could even do that job that he does better, which I get, but also is a little unfair to Havertz. But yeah, a lot of that, and it was one of those because it's the summer and there's nothing to do except talk, and the internet has a way of making people crazy. Things got a little unnecessary, and of course because these guys all have social media profiles, like. He was hearing all of it. Some of it was directed at him, just kind of unnecessary. So it was nice to hear him to get that moment, to have a strong performance and to get the long walk off, which allowed a nice round of applause for him.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, so that was good. He had a great match. So then, just when I'm thinking, okay, we're just kind of closing things out. Trossard comes in, and like happens so often with him, like within a minute. He makes a nice cross, and it goes off of Zubimendi's head right into the goal. It was a pretty nice one. Zubimendi secured a brace.
Trossard really is a guy who makes things happen off the bench. I don't think he can do it for 90 minutes, at least not the level we're looking for. It's funny, we talk about the transfer window being closed. It's certainly closed for incomings for England and frankly for most of the continent, but I don't know if it's true at the moment, but after the English window closes, I mean, the Saudis are still doing transfers. Turkey, apparently there was a rumor, there are always rumors out of Turkey, but there was a rumor that Turkey was offering a bunch of money for Trossard, which you could see why people might be interested in it given the difficulties we had selling players. But I think, like, at this point, you don't want to sell Trossard, and I don't want to say he proved his worth here, but that's kind of why, because he can come on late in the game, immediately makes a difference. It's just a lovely little cross. Zubimendi's made the run; he gets his head on it. He's never scored 2 goals before in his career. Now he has.
Yeah, a couple firsts for him this weekend, so that was good. I noticed during this match there was a bunch of times especially toward the beginning before it totally became clear what the lineup was, because the replay that I was watching, it started like right before kickoff. It didn't show the lineup ahead of time, so I didn't know. But I kept on thinking, Miles Lewis-Skelly is having like a really good game. I'm seeing like a lot of good passes in the first half, mind you, right? And I eventually realized, wait, that's not Miles Lewis-Skelly. He didn't start today. It's Gabriel essentially playing left back most of the match, because we kind of basically had a back 3 with Calafiori playing kind of more midfield most of the game.
Yes and no. I get the point you're making, but recall that basically since Zinchenko arrived a few seasons ago, the job of the left back has been, to what they call inverting, right? Or that's the term they use, where the left back, our left back, whether it was Zinchenko, whether it was Lewis-Skelly, whether whoever was playing in that position, was always basically moving forward and acting as almost as another midfielder. And at that point, yeah, you would have seen the back line drifting in, and Gabriel was always sort of the backstop to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a sense, I don't think this is terribly different than a lot of what we've seen before, except for the part where the Calafiori is more aggressive in going forward than even Zinchenko or Lewis Skelly or any of the others have been. I think we talked about how he's popping up at the edge of the other box. Like, he is just everywhere. But of course, that means he's got to do a lot of running to track back defensively, which is a weakness in his game. I don't think that's. I think it's fair to point that out. That he is a good offensive player. His defense needs some work. But he's young. He's like 21, 22. So, so in that sense, I think it was just a different version of something we've been doing, because every time that left back goes forward and steps up into that space, you of course have to have the center backs kind of drifting over. And especially with Timber playing a little bit deeper, but Ben White would do it too. He was deeper when the play was going up that end with that side with the left back. It was usually just rotated the other way when it was him, Odegaard, and Saka doing their thing on their side of the formation.
Right.
So that was. I don't think it was. So when as we're talking through it, and we talked a bit about this before, to me that's more an evolution of a thing we've kind of already been doing.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And again, how much of that was because we dominated, if not possession, at least the game flow or the game state, where everything was happening in the Forest end, which means California is constantly forward and isn't having to come back because they're not attacking enough for him to have to play defense like that.
Right.
And so your center backs and Mosquera and Gabby are kind of just there playing that center back position. And in a sense, it's a back three with not with Timber, but actually with David Raya, having to play so far forward as well.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, yeah. All right, well, who is your player of the match?
It was everybody. No, I mean they were all really good. I thought everybody had a really nice day. I arguably, if you were, it's not criticizing. Oh, he didn't really have a nice day. Was Odegaard, and that was because he got hurt, and it wasn't he did anything wrong. But I'm gonna go with Noni Madueke. I thought. I mean, most of the game we were attacking down the right wing. I think at one point it was like 60% of our attacks were going down the right wing. And because he was torturing that poor left back, not poor left back. I don't really, but he was constantly creating opportunities. He was dropping in corners. I'm not saying he replaces Saka. I'm not saying he's even a regular starter. When I don't think he's in our best 11. If you get a chance to have everybody out there play, I'm not even sure that this might be the best. Who knows? Maybe this is the best game he ever has as an Arsenal player. But even though he doesn't ultimately score or even get an assist, he doesn't get an assist for the Zubimendi goal because that was played from elsewhere. I thought he had a really good game. I thought he was dangerous throughout. He was creating opportunities. I'm going with Madueke for man of the match this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was my first choice. I've been noticing him all match long. He had an outstanding performance. I really like this guy. He's doing great. And I recall pointing him out the last time we played a couple weeks ago. Also, like he's a good signing. I'm happy with how he's doing. So absent Madueke, if I'm forcing myself to pick someone else, which I usually do, you got to hand it to Zubimendi. I mean, like not only his first Premier League goal, his first Arsenal goal, his second also, and like you're pointing out, like his 11th and 12th goals ever, and to do it in such style with like both of those. So the first one was just an amazing shot from anybody. That would have been an amazing shot. The second one is getting into that position to head in that cross so skillfully. It's just it's good. It's good to have more players who can head the ball in, because that's so important to our playing style.
Yeah. I mean, and I thought he had a good game overall too. I mean, I am being serious. I thought everyone had a really good game. I mean, even criticizing. I mean, Eze was, Gyökeres had a few moments where like, they're still kind of working it out. But then, of course, they combined for the goal. The second goal. I mean, Nwaneri had a few plays where he's kind of running around a little. Running around a little more than maybe you'd want, and had a few loose passes. But overall, like, I thought he was perfect. Like, you almost don't notice him in that way of like, well, there's nothing wrong. Christian Mosquera just played William Saliba. Like, he plays William Saliba on TV. Like he was fantastic in that role. He's 21, but he's an experienced player, and I think he has caps for Spain. I mean, you could name several of these guys. Honestly, I was thinking about this coming into the game, knowing we'd have to talk about the player of the week. Part of me wanted to see Marino score just so I could say the man of the week is Marino, who scored a bunch of goals for Spain and Arsenal.
Yeah, really.
That didn't happen. Marino was just doing Marino things around.
Yeah. He had that one close call where he almost did, but yeah.
But overall, I mean, I think it's hard for me to pick at somebody and say they had anything other than a good, if not really good, performance. So, 3-0. It's awesome.
Yeah. For dessert, I'm going to send our viewers and listeners over to the short videos platform of their choice. We talked this past week about all the different Premier League away kits. So we looked through all of them and decided which were each of our favorites and least favorites. So if that's something that is interesting to you, head over to YouTube, TikTok, etc., wherever you watch your short form video content. We are probably there. We post to most of those places. So you might enjoy those. We didn't talk about that on the show proper. So what is up for next week?
So looking ahead to next week, as we said, the schedule gets a little crazy. We start on Tuesday with the Champions League. We're back. It is an away game against Athletic Bilbao. So we head to the Basque Country. That'll be Tuesday on Paramount Plus. So we go back to European competition. And then a massive one Sunday at Manchester City. I don't actually know yet. I wrote in our notes here, NBC ? We're the last game. I think it's like a 12:30 Eastern kickoff, I think is what it is. So the last game of the day of the weekend. And it didn't actually list it. And it had the Saturday games listed. It didn't have any of the Sunday games where I was looking. I assume though midday it's going to be NBC, which would posit Arsenal directly against the NFL, which is fascinating. But
I wonder if that's why it isn't announced yet, if they're trying to decide which is going to get more viewership or something.
I don't know. I mean, NBC only I remember NBC for professional football, American football only has Sunday night, so they would be in direct contest with Fox and CBS, who are the ones televising the NFL. But it would be direct competition. And I mean, there's more. I mean, obviously it's a particular audience that watches the English Premier League as opposed to the NFL, which is everyone in America basically. But I do think that would be an interesting move on their part, but also given where it is in the schedule, I mean, why not? I mean, you're going to go against them anyway. I don't know what else NBC has that's going to, compete with, is going to compete with the NFL. So you might as well go for it and see how it goes. Especially for Arsenal City, which is, if you're going to show them a game, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I was looking through because I didn't see in the place where we usually go at World Soccer Talk. I was looking for the schedule and I wasn't seeing that match up there either. So in searching around trying to find it, all I was seeing was stuff about the Arsenal Manchester City fixtures of the prior season, and it's kind of funny. We played them on almost the exact same weekend last year. It was like late September, I believe, that we went to the Etihad. So that was that interesting timing on that. But
that is interesting.
Yeah,
cool.
And I also thought it was interesting when I was looking up the crest for Athletic Bilbao. I guess are they just called Athletic Club, but then kind of informally called Athletic Bilbao?
Their name is Athletic Club. As opposed to Atletico, which is the one in Madrid, who will also play, by the way, this year.
Right. Thanks for joining us at Gooner U. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also listen to the podcast version of our show on Apple, Spotify, and some other places. If you're only listening, try watching us on YouTube with the link in the show notes. Your homework for today is to follow our show if you haven't already. You can subscribe on all of our platforms, including YouTube, TikTok, and your podcast player of choice. We record the show using Zencaster. If you'd like to try it out, you can support Gooner U by signing up using the link in the description, which also has links to everything we talked about and our socials. Again, my name is Dove, and you can find me on Twitter at Dove Frankel. With me, as always, is Keith, and you can find him in a pub watching Arsenal matches.
The champions!
Nicely done.